On TV, Formula One looks sterile. 3 trophies, 3 flags, anthems, champagne, a bit of waving to the crowd, and then commercials. Everything is neat, clean, almost boring. But the truth is, the best, dumbest, and most human moments start right after the director hits fade to black. The cameras cut back to the studio, and suddenly the drivers and teams turn into something between a rock band on tour and a high school class on the last day of school. Today, we're going behind the podium, into the pools, the harbors, the garages, and the tiny air-conditioned rooms where champions behave like kids on a playground. These are the F1 celebrations you almost never see on TV, or you only get one tiny censored slice of them. Shoeies, pool dives, silly dances, hugs, pranks, shoves, and bizarre rituals that explain why no normal person could mentally survive an F1 season. And yeah, a few of these moments are more legendary than the race win that caused them. But that's not even the craziest part. Shoey, how one boot humiliated every champagne glass on Earth. Every era has its weird rituals. Ours has the shoey. If you ever hit pause on a podium shot and see a grown man, paid millions, smiling while holding his race boot like a wine glass, no, it's not a smell test. That's Daniel Ricciardo, the guy who decided champagne from Crystal sounded way too logical for Formula One.
I'm not drinking out of that, mate.
A shoey is simple. You win, or at least get a podium. You pull off your sweaty racing boot, you pour champagne inside like it's an energy drink commercial gone wrong, and you drink it like that's the most normal thing in the world. At first, people thought he was joking. He's not actually going to, oh, he did, he really did. Then he started dragging other people into it. Lewis Hamilton, multiple-time world champion, style icon.
Lewis Hamilton wins the Turkish Grand Prix!
Usually very protective of his image, drinks from the shoe. Team bosses, VIP guests on the podium, actors, singers. Suddenly, everyone is a potential victim. F1 is probably the only place where you can see a billionaire trying to decide what's worse, refusing and looking boring, or drinking out of someone else's shoe and becoming a meme forever. The real art isn't the shoey itself, it's the hunt. Ricciardo holds the boot like a microphone and waits. He waves it towards the other drivers, leans in, gets the crowd chanting. Down below, the mechanics are folded over laughing. They know exactly how that boot smells after 300 kilometers per hour in 40-degree cockpit heat. TV shows you 2 seconds, the commentator says, haha, shoey, and that's it. You don't see the guy next to him silently wondering if his immune system is ready for this. But if you think drinking out of a shoe is strange, wait until you see what happens when these people spot a swimming pool. Monaco, where the winner must get soaked. Monaco is half Grand Prix, half TikTok backdrop for rich people. Yachts, champagne, people who look like they've never seen a supermarket in their life. And right in the middle of all that luxury, there's a tradition that is pure chaos. Whoever wins jumps into the water. Race suit, boots, radio, whatever.
To push him in. The rumor that we're hearing is that Christian Horner's already been in there.
Over the years, we've seen everything. Red Bull basically turned their Monaco pool into an official victory destination. In 2018, Ricciardo wins with a car that's half broken.
It's redemption day for Daniel Ricciardo. He wins the Monaco Grand Prix. And
the electrical system is dying. Half the garage can't believe he made it to the flag. What does the team do? They burst out of the pits, head straight for the pool, and start launching themselves in.
His father, Joe, told me he had 2 wishes this weekend.
Team bosses, engineers, mechanics, the guy who pours the coffee in hospitality, everyone goes swimming. Then you get other moments. Perez wins in Monaco. The Mexican rocket decides it's time to become a human torpedo and dives into the pool fully suited up. The photos of the entire team turning up soaking wet to the next paddock event are priceless, and maybe the most emotional of all. When Charles Leclerc finally wins at home and gets to do the harbor jump as the guy on the poster, not just the local boy with bad luck.
First time in 93 years, this fabled race is won by one of their own. Charles Leclerc wins the Monaco Grand Prix.
He doesn't just jump. He drags a few innocent team members in with him. If you ever see a man in Monaco wearing a dripping wetsuit with the expression, "Why do I even work here?" Ferrari probably just won. The broadcast gives you a couple of shots, then cuts back to the studio. You don't see the mechanic who cannonballs into the pool, then instantly realizes his phone is still in his pocket. You don't see the PR girl desperately trying to save her laptop, holding it over her head like a tourist in a flood. That's why Monaco is more than just a street circuit. And sometimes the person who ends up wet isn't a driver or a mechanic. It's a poor reporter who is standing in the wrong place. When Christian Horner decided reporters should celebrate too. One of the most classic, not really on TV moments also happened in Monaco. Red Bull wins, the mood is at maximum. The pool has basically turned into a public bath for people with energy drink in their bloodstream. Sky Sports are doing a live piece from the side of the pool. A bit of analysis, a bit of let's feel the atmosphere. When Christian Horner decides the atmosphere would be easier to feel if the reporter experienced it from the inside. The camera turns towards the reporter, and just as he starts talking, Horner appears out of nowhere, gives him a gentle but very effective shove, and sends the poor guy straight into the pool behind him. Microphone, clothes, earpiece, all in. Everyone around the pool has that split-second conflict. The brain says, oh no, the equipment. The heart says, yes, content. That's the charm of these celebrations. No one is safe. There are countless clips from team hotels and paddock spas where a driver accidentally pushes a mechanic into the water while just casually walking past. There's always one guy who goes in like an Olympic diver and another who holds his phone above his head like a sacred relic. And when they're not throwing each other into pools, they start doing other rituals, dances, cuddling cars, and turning the podium into a mini musical. Victory dances, odd rituals, and talking to the car. Some drivers celebrate like normal people. Wave to the fans, take a selfie, spray champagne. Others, not so much. Sebastian Vettel, for example, had a phase where every podium came with an improvised dance. The most memorable might be his walk like an Egyptian moment early in the hybrid era. Arms forward and back, that 80s music video walk, the podium turned into a stage. Then came a different kind of love, petting the car.
I didn't know. I didn't know.
After certain wins in his Red Bull days, Vettel would climb out, take off his helmet, and literally start stroking the car, patting the front wing, praising it into the microphone. There are clips of him standing next to it talking like it's alive. Somewhere in Milton Keynes, the engineers are probably thinking, it's just carbon and bolts. But for the driver, that thing is a partner in crime. He's not alone in the weird ritual department. Some drivers always jump out of the car in exactly the same way. Others always step onto one specific step of the podium first, like a superstition. Some double tap the steering wheel for luck. Others refuse to step on certain painted lines in the garage floor, as if they're playing a very expensive real-life version of The Floor is Lava. On TV, you see maybe 5% of this. The rest is inside jokes, souvenirs, mini traditions born from stress and repetition. Imagine driving the same 20 circuits year after year. Of course, your brain will look for little rituals it can control. And still, the most visible going crazy happens when the champagne bottles come out. Champagne storms and tiny drinking disasters. On the podium, champagne looks classy. A bit of spraying, a bit of mist, drivers laughing. Down below, it's basically a small weather event. First, those bottles are weapons. Mechanics up on the podium often wear goggles. Occasionally even earplugs. Stewards guard the cameras like parents guarding kids at a swimming pool. The podium floor becomes so slippery it's no surprise when a driver suddenly breaks into an involuntary breakdance on ice. Once the bottles are empty up there, the champagne is not. Underneath, the crews have their own parties, champagne fights in the garage, improvised fountains, people sliding across the floor, uniforms soaked and sticky for the rest of the weekend. It's hilarious to watch someone who changed all 4 tires in 2 seconds struggling to stay upright because the garage floor is now basically a rink. Then there are the evening parties, the official FSIA gala nights where everyone's in suits. The formal speeches finish, the DJ turns it up, and the atmosphere gets looser. You're not going to see the broadcast version where a driver accidentally uses the microphone as a fork, or a famously stone-faced team boss ends up dancing on stage because the DJ played a hit from his teenage years. Important note, we're not glorifying drinking. Alcohol isn't the hero here. The hero is the contrast. A few hours earlier, you were at 300 kilometers per hour with sniper-level focus. Now you're just trying not to button your jacket crooked. And if you think that sounds chaotic, wait till we go into the garage, where the celebrations are more personal, and honestly, often even weirder. Garage traditions and secret team rituals. The garage is the team's temple. When they win, it turns into a church, a bar, and a locker room all at once. Some teams have a wall just for their history. Every first win, every podium, Every title marked with signatures, dates, sometimes tiny drawings. TV usually shows us everyone hugging everyone, while in the corner someone is already holding a marker, hunting for space between old scribbles. There are also purely mechanical traditions. Champagne hidden in tire boxes so it doesn't appear during FYA checks. Right after the race, someone opens a crate supposedly full of tires and, surprise, there's a bottle inside. One mechanic once said his biggest fear is to grab the wrong crate and proudly pull out an actual tire in the middle of the celebration. Then you've got the bets. A driver promises to shave his head if he gets a first podium, or to shave the engineer's beard if they finally stop messing up pit stops. These tiny wagers never make it into press releases, but inside the team, they mean a lot. Some teams build little shrines to victories. An old wing, a broken front nose, a chunk of the barrier they once hit. They stick stickers on it, write the date, and a message, and you'll never see that on an official broadcast. But if you ever sneak into a hospitality unit and spot a weird carbon trophy with "Never again that" kind of pit stop written on it, now you know that's an inside joke with history. But the purest look at drivers as actual humans doesn't happen in the garage or the pool. It happens in a small room with aircon, 3 chairs, and 1 TV. The cool-down room, 3 chairs, 1 TV, 0 filters. The cool-down room is where the top 3 go before the podium. It's the one place where the helmets are off, the adrenaline is still high, and for a short moment nobody is playing a role. Some of the most honest and funniest moments happen there. Drivers get water, throw their gloves on a sofa, unzip their suits and start watching replays of their own fight. Look, here I pushed you a bit. Yeah, but you were off the line. No, man, I left you space. That's the default dialogue. When teammates end up there together, you get this strange mix of respect and passive-aggressive banter. Sometimes you get pure gold. Someone doesn't know where to put his helmet and just plops it on the trophy. Another uses the corner camera like a mirror to fix his hair, not realizing that's also being broadcast. There are quiet moments too. A driver with his first win sits on the sofa, holding his helmet, just smiling at nothing, because his brain hasn't fully processed what just happened. Bits of this sometimes reach TV, but we rarely hear the full conversation. Most of the time they show us 5 seconds, then cut to the podium. Yet this is where you see who's truly relaxed, who's still boiling from a strategy call, who's annoyed, and who's already planning how to celebrate. The cool-down room is like a backstage dressing room for superheroes. For a minute, the masks drop, the heroes trade jokes, and then they walk back out and play their roles for the world. If you only watched the official broadcast, you might think Formula One is cold math. Strategies, tires, aero, telemetry. But behind every win, there's a group of hundreds of people who've sacrificed weekends, sleep, and nerves for one P1 that can vanish with a single loose wheel nut. When it finally works, all that pressure explodes outward. That's why a shoey is not just drinking from a shoe. It's Ricciardo turning a victory into a shared, slightly disgusting, absolutely unforgettable experience. That's why the Monaco pool isn't just a pool. It's a stage where the mechanic who never appears on TV suddenly becomes the main character in a soaked race suit. That's why Vettel dances and pets his car. That's why Horner shoves reporters into water. That's why garages hide little shrines and secret bets. These moments remind us that under the carbon, the millions and the politics, there's something really simple. People who gave everything for a few seconds of happiness. And when those seconds finally arrive, they don't act like robots. They jump into water, scream, hug, dance badly. Sometimes do stupid things they regret later, in their head and in their hangover. Next time you watch a podium and the director cuts back to the studio, try to imagine what's happening just out of frame. Someone's probably holding a boot full of champagne. Somebody else is mid-air over a pool. A mechanic is signing his name on a wall in the garage. Another driver is in the cool-down room, smiling at nothing. Then you'll realize that some of the best F1 moments are exactly the ones you don't see on TV. Now, it's your turn. Drop a comment. Which celebration is the most legendary to you? The shoey, the pool dives, the goofy dances, or some secret garage ritual we didn't even mention yet?